So I would say without creative, there is no brand, right? And I do think there's an extent where no matter where you're commercializing, and you've seen a lot of brands do this, you can commercialize your brand into the ground, whether that's performance marketing or anything else. If you're doing everything a retailer says to you, if you're in beauty or something else, if you say, I'm gonna do everything Ulta says, you become no one, you stand for nothing, right? So for us, driving our brand DNA, really making sure that our creative told the story and our creative humanized the brand was number one. That was what we focused on from day one. What we found was that in order to create the volume that we needed and the variety that we needed, we had to tap into much more native content. We had to really let the consumer sit in the driver's seat, I think more than some brands are comfortable with. You know, we had to get to a point where we really made some bold decisions on creative to say, like, we can go off the beach, we can be a brand that, you know, stands for just self-celebration in any sort of circumstance, and that really unlocked just massive audiences for us.
Cool. And then, yeah, from the agency side, how did you guys approach it?
Yeah, at the very beginning, it was moving Sol off of the beach and into the consumer's home. And that was a huge part of the initial work that we did together on the creative front, both from a brand content perspective, but especially from an influencer and UGC perspective. I think a lot of times brands are afraid to put the consumer in the driver's seat, but it is a risk that you should be willing to take and is worth taking if your branding is strong enough to sustain it. And I think allowing the consumer to speak for you is very important.
So there's something about you are opening this yellow jar. We know our products are so strongly branded and recognizable. That no matter who you give the product to, they open the door, like, oh my God, they're smelling it, it's visceral. And that visceral reaction is so human and so compelling that we're getting really consistent reactions, right? And so we have this beautiful packaging, it's super brandable. We're even seeing when we use a mist, we have a perfume mist, if you don't know the brand, and people do the same gesture, there's this like very clear gesture. So we were able to really start owning and identifying with the reaction of the consumer. So it's been a really interesting journey. And for us, we thought, we're gonna run with that. Like, that's a huge, like, how often does that come across your plate, right? Where you can really say, like, this is the emotion that we unlock in the consumer, that's what we're going after.